and good evening. Welcome to the informational proposal briefing for RFP 12077, or better known as the San Bernardino Transit Center Omnitrans Bus Facility Project. This briefing is between 3 to 5 minutes long, so please hold all your comments and questions to the end. My name is Lindsay Kinman, and I will be the reviewer for this proposal, and I am also going to be briefing this presentation. Next. The information I have provided you is a packet for this RFP in particular. All the information I have provided and all the materials, attachments, and references are also available at sandbag.ca.gov. As an added note, please do not discuss this RFP with any board members, officials, or employees of Sandbag Company, or our potential proposal will be disqualified. Next. This presentation will go as follows: the project concept, the type of contract, state and federal requirements, project key dates, the firm proposal selection and consultant selection process, required insurance policies, indemnity setup process, and lastly, company recommendations given by me. Next. First off, the concept of the project. What it is: the San Bernardino Transit Center Omnitrans facility, where the southwest sector of the Rialto Avenue and East Street in downtown San Bernardino. Why? In order to develop and improve the on-site and off-site Omnitrans bus facility, which is a part of the SBTC, or known as the San Bernardino Transit Center. Next. Here is a map of the project layout. If you could please orientate yourself to the map. This is South G Street. This is West Rialto Avenue, where most of the project will be conducted. Here is South East Street, and here is a parking lot where the San Bernardino Redevelopment Agency is located at. The Sandbag DSB PRP, or the San Bernardino Passenger Rail Project, is also being conducted in this area. Over here is the actual bus facility Omnitrans, which this project is pertaining to. Here you can see the lightly green shaded areas to show the TOD pads and the bus pads that are going to be created for this project. Next. The concept of the project. There will be 21 on-site improvements and 7 off-site improvements. These two lists are also included in Attachment A in your packets if you'd like to read through both lists. Because of the font size, I believe most of you will have a hard time reading through it. That is why it is included in your packets. The 21 on-site improvements are various buildings and parking meters, customer service buildings, electronics, security office buildings, bike lockers, storage buildings, things of that nature. There is also 22 on-site bus bays, including in this, including 4 articulated buses, and on-site landscaping and irrigation, public restrooms, and things of that nature. Over here on the off-site improvements are mostly regarding the Rialto Avenue and East Street roads and intersections that will be improved because of this project. Next. The scope of services, which is also in Attachment A. The firm that will be selected must provide all necessary services and meet all design requirements, including the architecture and landscape architecture, including building plans, construction documents, various engineering plans for the bus roadways, sidewalks, planters, utilities, and other types of irrigation, including the coordination of the environmental and design plans, along with the downtown San Bernardino passenger rail project that I had showed you on the map that was also being conducted at the same time. Lastly, it is required to obtain all approvals for the on-site and off-site improvements based on the list that we just went through on the previous slide. Next. The project components. As I said before, the firm will be required to obtain an environmental clearance by February 2012. Keep in mind that the bid award will not be approved until November 2nd. So that is approximately 4 months to get an environmental clearance for this project. The firm will also be expected to provide a preliminary design for the entire project, both buildings and landscaping. They will provide the final designs for all 21 on-site improvements and final designs for all 7 off-site improvements. So that includes road work and road construction as well. Next. The project contract. The contract is within a federal aid project financed by the U.S. Department of Transportation. So overall it is federally funded. This specific contract is in regards to a time and materials contract, which envelops the fact that the Sandbag Corporation, in this case, will agree to pay the contractor firm that was chosen for the bid, will pay the contracted firm based upon the work performed by the contractor's employees, subcontractors, vendors, and other entities for their work and materials used in the construction. These contracts are usually used because of the impossibility to accurately present a cost estimation because of the various construction taking place in this project. These contracts also present a higher risk for the owner, which in case would be Sandbag in this case, and most secure for contractors such as ourselves if we were to present a proposal. The least desirable contract type for the federal government, basically because of the high risk association. In addition, and most notable, is that any services that are not specifically written in the contract will not be reimbursed. So before any work or construction can begin, we need to make sure that it is in fact covered within the contract before it has begun, or else we will not be reimbursed for the costs or the work related. In addition, there is a not to exceed clause, which means that the funds are limited and the costs cannot exceed in a certain amount. The fixed hourly rates are regarding the labor rates and the payment for each employee and the hours that they are required to work per day. Next. The 3 state and federal project requirements I will be covering is the California state labor laws, the EEO drug-free workplace laws, and the disadvantaged business enterprise and underutilized disadvantaged business enterprise contract requirements. Next. First off, state and labor law. The firm must adhere to the California Code of Regulations, which is regarding to the prevailing wage laws, which means that all mechanics and laborers employed by the contractor will be paid according to the basic hourly rates set in the contract, specifically in that fixed hourly rate clause. Next. The EEO drug-free workplace law. Federally, it is under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This will be incorporated in the selection process and any managerial or personal hiring processes that will ensure that this contract will not discriminate for race, age, religion, or any other biases. It will also adhere to the California Fair Employment Practice Act, in addition to the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1990, ensuring that all employees will be working with no under the influence and no usage of illegal substances while on the work site. Next. The Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Contract Agreement basically states that it is incorporating a participation of disadvantaged business enterprises for those that have minority or women-owned businesses, and encouraging them to participate in the contracting opportunities. This is part of Title 49 of the Code of Federal Regulations, or the CFR. The contract goal in this project is that the participation by these UDBEs is a 3.2% of the total contract value. These businesses are able to participate in these contracting opportunities, such as being the prime contractors, subcontractors, venture partners, trucking companies, and vendors of materials and supplies. Next. In addition, just be aware that the UDBE that the firm must select should be certified by the time that the contract bid is accredited and given to the firm. Caltrans has conveniently published a directory of the DBE firms in the area. It can be downloaded at this website, which is also included in the package. Please be aware that the UDBE goal, if it is not met, that the firm must submit a good faith efforts report to show that the firm has done everything in its power and took all the necessary and reasonable steps to ensure that it achieves this goal, but in fact has indeed failed. The good faith efforts report is shown on Exhibit 15H in your packets. It is on page 33 through 36 of Attachment C is where you will find it. Please note that the proposer's responsibility is to validly verify that the UDBE falls within the 4 major groups in order to count towards this contract goal. Those 4 groups are African Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, and Native Americans, and lastly, women business owners. Next. Key dates for this project. The issue date was September 7th. The pre-proposal conference date, which is not mandatory, September 12th. The question submittal deadline for any questions that need to be submitted to Sandbag is September 19th. The proposal due date is September 29th at 2 p.m. Any proposals submitted after that time will be immediately rejected and unopened. The interview date, where certain firms will be invited to Sandbag to be interviewed for the proposals, is during the week of October 10th. The Board of Directors approval for the bid proposal for that specific firm that was chosen is November 2nd. The notice to proceed and begin construction is November 3rd. As I said before, since the approval will not be submitted until November 2nd, the firm chosen will only have about 4 months before the environmental clearance is required. Next. The project selection process. This list depicts the decision basis for how Sandbag will select the firms. Basically, it is based on professional qualifications, work experience, demonstrated competence and capabilities, making sure that the firms understand and are able to adhere to the state and federal laws within the contract. This decision will be made without the consideration of race, religion, color, age, and national origin. Again, it incorporates the EEO restrictions. And also, the objective of this selection is to choose the most qualified firm for this project in order to perform services at a fair and reasonable cost. So not only are they looking at price, but they are looking at quality of service. The selection process is as follows. It must remain fair, open, and competitive throughout the whole thing. The firms must submit their completed proposals to Sandbag no later than September 29th to the proposal manager, which in this case is Mitch Alderman. His contact information is in the packet, as well as later on in the presentation. All potential firms will be invited by the Sandbags Board of Directors according to their evaluations. The interviews will be conducted during the week of October 10th, as I said before. The evaluation committee, which evaluates each proposal depending on the criteria outlined in the contract, they will rank each proposal highest to lowest, and the highest firm will be selected. The firm with the highest ranking will usually be the most technically qualified, responsible, reliable, best conforming, and the most advantageous choice out of all the proposed firms that had applied for the contract. So they were looking for the best of the best for this project contract. And lastly, Sandbag's Board of Directors will approve the bid proposal for the awarded firm no later, as I said before, November 2nd is when the firm will be notified if they were approved for their proposal. Sandbag will give the notice to proceed or the green light to go ahead and begin construction on the project no later than November 3rd. Next. Insurance requirements. This will be found in Article 22 of the contract in your packets. The insurance policies will be procured by the contracted firm's expenses. They will have to pay out of pocket for it. Proof of insurance will be provided before any type of work or construction begins on the project. The policies will cover the full workforce and will maintain coverage all throughout the term of the contract. Insurance policies will be provided by a licensed Californian carrier with at least a rating of A7 or better. The insurance policy must also include the 5 mandatory forms of liability with a minimum of $1 million per incident. The 5 liabilities listed in the contract required for this project are professional liability, workers' comp, commercial general liability, which also has an additional 4 sub-liabilities included in it, automobile liability, and railroad protective liability, which should cover about 50 feet, both vertically and horizontally for each incident. Next. Project indemnity. This list pretty much goes over that the contracted firm will agree to defend and not hold Sandbag or employees, volunteers, or anyone who works for them responsible for any and all claims, actions, damages that follow the actions or errors of any person for any costs or expenses incurred by Sandbag themselves during this contract. This indemnity pretty much goes over everything except for the services that are protected under the Civil Code, Section 2782-8. And again, there are more details outlined in this article in the contract, which is included in the packet before you. Next. As I said before, firm proposals are due no later than September 29th at 2 p.m. Any proposals submitted after this deadline will be immediately rejected and remain unopened. And please don't forget that as a inclusion for the proposal, it is required that you send in a certification of debarment, suspension, and other responsibility matters. This is listed on page 6 in attachment C-1 if you'd like to look at the form and review it. This is a term for disqualification if the certificate is not included in the proposal. If you could please note that these proposals must be submitted to this individual right here, the Director of Transit and Rail Programs. His name is Mitch Alderman. He is a part of the San Bernardino Associated Governments. The address is listed here below and also in your packets if you cannot read this. As an added note, all proposers are responsible for checking the Sandbags website on a weekly basis for updated information on this specific RFP in order to keep on top of any changes that might have occurred. Next. The proposal recommendations for this company, I would have to go with the fact that we are not an engineering or construction company. We are a logistics-based company. I would recommend that our company do not submit a proposal for this reason. Next. If you have any questions or concern regarding this RF program and presentation, please write down your questions and submit them to Kathleen Murphy Perez. She is the contracts manager for Sandbag, no later than September 19th by 4 p.m. Her email here is listed and also is also included in the packet before you. And that is all I have for this informational briefing. I hope you've enjoyed it and it was beneficial and helpful to us all, and I hope you all have a great night.